What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Carl. I'm the consumer review lad, and I just consumed CSI Vegas Season 1, Episode 5, Let the Chips Fall, and I'm going to review it on this podcast. Real quick non-spoiler review is I give this episode 2.75 stars, so 2 3/4 stars. Entertainment was a 3, same as last week, just average entertainment. Acting this week was a 2, a lot of just wooden, really bad acting in certain parts. Not the whole episode, but just very certain parts. Some actors would have really bad acting, and then sometimes the same actors would have just decent acting. So I gave acting a 2 this week. Story was a 3. This one was really close between a 2 and a 3. It was Some parts were kind of unbelievable, but everything kind of tied in together very well. So I did give it a 3 for that, and they did jam a lot of story in this episode. Presentation was a 3, just average presentation. That was it for the spoiler free part. Now we're going to go into the spoiler part where I spoil the storylines for this episode. This episode had 4 storylines going. You had the murder of the week, the David Hodge case, and 2 love stories this week. The same one between Joshua and Allie, and a new one with Maxine and an FBI agent named Marcus Barron. So we'll start with the new love story. Marcus works for the FBI. He gets assigned to airplane cases, and the murder of the week involved an airplane, so he was there. There was just a lot of communication between Maxine and the FBI agent, to even where the other characters knew something was going on there. It looks like they had sort of history of working together in the past, but in the past she was married. Now she's divorced, she's single, but it didn't go anywhere in this episode as they solved the case. After they solved the case, he ended up leaving a note on her desk that wasn't really a love note or anything like that. Just a thank you for helping me solve the case type of note. And then he left a little airline pilot tag on the note also. Maybe there'll be a payoff in the future. Maybe there'll be a little love story in the future. But for right now, nothing. Just a lot of hint, a lot of connection there between the two characters, but no sort of payoff. The love story that we've been seeing play out this whole season, Joshua and Allie, kind of kicked off this episode because of the FBI and Maxine love story. They were talking about how clearly there was something going on between those two. And the main part of the love story here is that Allie kept reiterating that she would never date a coworker, something she said in the past, I believe in episode 1. And Joshua didn't really respond to those comments. He kind of brushed them off, ignored them, focused on the job at hand. But clearly you can still see that love story connection between Joshua and Allie going on. And she's really doesn't want to date a coworker, but there might be something there with Joshua. I know in episode 1 she made some sort of comment about Gil and Sarah, how they formed a relationship on the job. So we'll see where it goes going forward. So this murder of the week was absolutely crazy. So I'm not going to talk about it as it was revealed to the audience, little clues here and there. I'm just going to tell you straight up what happened on the murder of the week. So we have a pilot who has terminal lung cancer, and he's a single father to a boy who lost his mother during childbirth. So he has no one besides his father. And every time he worked, every time he flew a plane, he had this babysitter. Well, this babysitter convinced him to pull off this scheme where they could steal some untraceable casino chips so the son could have something to live off of after he passes away. So how it worked is they put her in a suitcase and they went on this cargo flight. He wasn't a pilot working, he was what they call deadhead. What deadhead means is like when you're deadheading a flight is you jump in the jump seat on the way home, get like a flight on the way home that you're not working. So he was deadheading this flight. She was in the suitcase, and the whole deal was he would distract the pilots. She would get out of the suitcase, open up the crate, steal $2 million worth of casino chips, then go back in the suitcase, and then he would just drag the suitcase off, and they would be $2 million richer. But instead, the babysitter got greedy, and as soon as she was out of the suitcase, she started tasing the other pilots, and then she took an axe and just started axing them and killing them while in the middle of the air. I think she tried to kill her partner in crime, but he didn't die for whatever reason. And then she opened up the door, and then she jumped out of the airplane with a parachute. At that point, she got frostbite on her fingers, which is one of the reasons that they caught her. And the partner in crime who wasn't dead had just enough energy to close the door to the plane, go into the front, set the plane to auto land, so you can set planes to auto land, and the plane automatically landed by itself at an airport. And when it landed, they opened up the plane. They just saw 3 dead guys, blood everywhere. It was the crime scene. At one point, they used a drone, just a little bit more CSI 2021. They used a drone on the airplane just to kind of look at the crime scene without stepping on all of the bodies. How she ended up really getting caught was, of course, she was still the babysitter, so that when they were at his house, they were talking to her, and they noticed that she had frostbitten fingers, which is kind of rare in the desert. And they also realized from there they got a rap sheet where she used to work in the Air Force, and she kind of has a history of just doing crimes. But they also realized that at some point the plane probably went upside down. And when that happened, they went back to the plane. They looked in the top air vent and they found a taser tag that comes out of tasers. And that taser tag had like a serial number that matched a taser that she bought a few weeks before the crime, or right before the crime happened. And they tied that to her being on the plane, so she was arrested, and that's how they solved the murder of the week. Just very outlandish story all around. So that's why I almost thought about giving it a 2, but it's just everything tied in so well together, and even the viewers at home still probably had a little bit of chance of figuring out who did it. But another, because some of the other suspects was like his cousin, and it's like his cousin's girlfriend, and they ended up being the good people in this. But they just packed so much in this episode and it tied in so well. That's why I gave it a 3 instead of a 2. Now let's go into the David Hodge storyline, which was not insane or as insane as the murder of the week this episode. The murder of the week was just incredible. I think that might have been the craziest one yet. And that's really saying something, because the murder of the week, besides maybe week 1, maybe even week 2, it's been pretty insane, especially these past 2 weeks here. So who knows what's going to happen next week. But the David Hodge storyline is that they're investigating the guy that Gil suspected of doing it. We saw the last episode that he's like, I know who did it. Here's his picture. We never got an answer of how he knew who did it. Or at least I don't think we did. He might have dropped in the line. I just kind of missed it. But they were investigating him, and they realized he does autopsies on the side for families. And one of the autopsies he's worked on, the body was donated to science, so the body was on a body farm. So Gil and Sarah went to a body farm, which this episode really should have aired before Halloween, because that body farm was one of the most disturbing things I've seen in CSI this season. And it's incredibly disturbing, and that really would have been a good pre-Halloween episode. But on that body farm, they found the skeleton of the girl that he had an autopsy on, and he took a bone. And apparently this autopsy society, body farm science society, they gossip like middle school kids, and word get back to the suspect that Gil and Sarah were kind of looking into his work. So he approached them at some building. I'm not sure what the building was, and he's like, hey, I would like to talk to you two. And Gil was like, well, sorry, we're busy. And he was like, okay, well, bye. And at that moment, Gil and Sarah knew that he knew they were on to him, and he realized that, okay, yep, they're on to me. So he called someone, and they had to work together. So Gil and Sarah rushed to get a warrant based off the fact that he's stealing bones. They got a warrant to search his house. When they go to search his house is already burned down, and he's dead. Someone duct taped a grenade to his neck and blew his head off. So now they're having to work with that. And the episode ends with Gil looking at a wall and turning the lights off and changing the colors and seeing some sort of marking on the wall. And he's like, well, they made a mistake. And the audience at home is like, well, what did they do? Because we don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out next week on CSI Vegas. But otherwise, like I said, this was a very interesting episode. They just jam-packed so much in this episode. While the murder of the week was just a crazy story, it was entertaining. It was just insane. The David Hodge story is really heating up, and you have these love stories going on. We had a double love story this week. We'll see what happens next week. I know last week I think they had kind of 4 storylines. One of them was the Maxine with her son, and of course the love story. This one was just 2 love stories. Murder of the week and the David Hodge case. So I don't know what the murder of the week will be next week, or the David Hodge case. I don't think I even watched the trailer, but we'll see. It's getting good. I will say that it's getting good. And like I said, I did give it 2.75 stars. So this is the first episode that I've rated 2.75 stars in this season. I gave the first episode 2.5 stars. I believe I gave the next 3 episodes 3 stars. This is a 2.75 star. Anyways, I'd like to know what you guys think of this episode. Tweet me at consume_review. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. If you're watching this on YouTube and enjoyed it, please click like. If you didn't enjoy it, please click subscribe. You might enjoy a future podcast. Anyways, my name is Carl. I'm the Consumer Review Lad, and this is the Consumer Review podcast for CSI Vegas, Season 1, Episode 5, Let the Chips Fall. Peace out.